Hey everybody, my toy Bonsai Boise. Fall is here. Figured I would do a quick update on the trees before I move half of them inside. So let's go take a look. All right, so here's the situation. It's getting sadder by the minute as I dismantle everything. I had one of these racks right here too. I already took it apart to put it in the grow tent inside. And now I'm sort of separating some trees out so I can get an idea of what needs to come in and what doesn't. So please pardon the disarray of the situation for now. That being said, let's take a look at some of these. So this is one of those topiary. I don't know if I've actually shown this on any videos or not, but I got 2 of these this year. Nothing much to say yet. The other one I'm doing an air layer right about there. I'll show you here in a second. Just got them for free, so figured why not? Let's do something with them. So this table is where I'm storing some of the tropicals before bringing them in. I'm trying to get an idea of how much size and space I've got. So there's one table full. Here's another table full of tropicals that need to come in. And everything there, there, and there. And a couple on here. I have no idea how that happened. Anyways, here's one of the Ficus Fusion Bush to Bonsai Part 2 that I did, or Bush to Bonsai 2.0. I've done 2 of them. This was the second one. Did an update on this recently. And in that update, I'm trying sort of a graft fusion thing here, where essentially I just stuck some branches in between some of these bigger trunks, wrapped it all up to try to get some branching in that midsection there. It's one of the Schefflera clumps. Did a video on this early spring, I think it was. Defoliated it a month or so ago, and it's growing back. Here's my tiger bark ficus forest / penging. Here, let's put it over here on this turntable real quick and get a better look. Did a video on this, I want to say about a year ago, maybe, give or take. Just going for like a penging look. Got some cool volcanic rock in there. My long-term vision is to have this, you know, I gotta prune it, it's pretty wild at the moment, but have this as kind of a forest, and that's more of like a prehistoric scene in there, like dinosaurs and cavemen walking around. That's the long-term vision for it. I did prune it up once in July and just let it go since then, and this is it. So it's doing well, nice and healthy. This is one of my ginseng ficus trees that I got from Costco a while back. I've always referred to it as Thor. So it's pretty wild too. It needs a prune. The top part died back quite a bit. And it's got a lot of what I would call native growth coming out of it. These things usually just have those Green Island ficus branches grafted on. And there's still a couple of those. I think that's one, but otherwise, a lot of the native stuff is coming back. This is my kid's Ficus benjamina. It's actually looking pretty good, nice and healthy. We'll take a closer look at it a little later. The rest of these, for the most part, are all smaller Ficus fusions that I've got going on, with a few minor exceptions. Mostly all cuttings from that Bush to Bonsai that I got last year. So I took the cuttings, you can see, you know, right there, big cuttings were made. And I'm doing a bunch of miniature fusions with them. Some are doing better than others. In fact, I was really surprised at how different each one did. So, for example, here's one. Look how yellow these leaves are. Never really thrived. Here's one where the leaves are darker green. Here's another where it's like a lime green. Very dark green. I think this one didn't get pruned maybe at all. Very just different progress on all of them. Here's a big Schefflera sort of clump. I did a video on this a few years ago. I just took a bunch of Schefflera cuttings I had and just stuck them all in this pot. Really nothing much to see or talk about at the moment. One of those things I'm just kind of letting grow. So this situation, that was the automatic sprinkler. This tubing is actually really cheap. You get like 50 feet for 10 bucks. So I didn't bother trying to salvage it. I just sort of cut it to get it down. I am going to salvage all of the tips though, all little sprayer nozzles, because those I can reuse. It's one of my Amur maples. This had a rough season. It was doing really good, and then in a windstorm it fell. A couple of branches broke, and I thought, well, I'll just prune it up. And I did, and then almost all the leaves dropped, which is typical for me and Amur maples. They're really touchy for me. I don't know why, but it eventually bounced back. I put it over here where it got a little more shade, and it bounced back. Here's a canister that I've never really introduced before, but bought it this year, trimmed it up, and just kind of let it go. And I'll take a closer look at it next year. One of my many Siberian elms. This started as a cutting, as they all pretty much did. Got some cool movement and shape. Yeah, excited for its future. There's a Japanese elm, a Zelkoba. I bought this on Etsy, of all places. I don't know what made me look there, but I did, and found it and bought it. Grew way out, and then recently I trimmed it back just a little, and it's bouncing back again. What I don't know is how cold hardy they are. I had one before, it survived one winter, then died the next winter. And I can't find any reliable information on just how cold hardy they are. So if you know, please share. There's another Siberian elm. Similar style as that one back there, but slightly different. Kind of an S shape. All I did was wire that one down and then wired that one down and let nature do the rest. I like it too for a cutting. Trembling aspen, I think it's called. It's a new one. Just got it from a nursery at early spring and kind of let it go. My two junipers. Let's take a closer look at this. All right, so here's the juniper on Mr. Miyagi tree. I did a trim on this. It had gotten way out of hand. I let it get too out of hand. I had to do some pretty hard pruning to it. It's going to take a while, I think, to get its cool shape back. It lost a lot of its shape and character, as you can see. This is all new growth, which is good, so it's healthy. It's kind of just mixed in with old growth and just looks out of whack, so call it a rebuilding season. We're in a rebuilding season. Also, I cannot get this thing to stay to save my life, so I'm going to take this wire off and maybe try it again with maybe double up on it, because I just can't get it to bend and stay bent. Anyway, that's this one. Let's look at the other. Here's my other juniper that I just started this year. Sort of doing a similar style with it, really. I don't know why. I guess I just gravitated to it accidentally, maybe. I don't know. Anyways, it's got a long way to go, but it's on its way. I like the path that it's on. It did well this year. I pruned it back at least once, maybe twice. So yeah, I'm happy with it. And before I forget, here I have a couple other Siberian elms I wanted to show. This is one that started as a cutting, I want to say 3 years ago. I could be off. I might have lost track there, but I kind of of like the way it's going. I like its weird movement and direction, and yeah, I like it. It's still pretty scrawny, got a ways to go, but not bad for 2 or 3 or somewhere between 2, 3, and 4 years old cutting. So that's that one. Got another one that's sort of like a brother to this one. It was a cutting about the same time and similar style, so let's take a look at that. This one, however, has been on a very different path, doing something different. Just this year I changed up what I was doing. One, I've got this sacrificial branch down here that I'm growing just to thicken up the base of the trunk a little bit. Then it'll come off, probably make it a cutting too. And then also, it was much longer up here, but I air layered the top part of it off and sort of redesigned all of this. I guess it would help if I had some footage of that, but I don't, unfortunately. Let me show you the top part that I took as an air layer. Ta-da! Can you believe that came from the top part of that? They grow up so fast. And oddly enough, too, this one seems to be donning its fall colors, whereas this one is not. But yeah, the air layer survived and seems to be doing fine, other than, you know, changing colors a little early, but good potential for this guy down the road. All right, here's my big one. I call it Big Daddy. This is the main one. This is the one that all cuttings have come from. So every other Siberian elm that I have at some point came from either a cutting or an air layer from this. Now this is in rough shape. Why did I let it go so long, you might wonder? It had not as good of a summer as I had hoped for. I really don't know what happened, but a lot of my Siberian elms, for some reason, just sort of, the leaves turned yellow and kind of like this, which now I don't know if this is the same thing it was experiencing before or if this is just fall colors. I don't know for sure. But anyways, it was doing this kind of all year off and on. And I was pretty concerned. I think I posted a little something about it once or twice. So finally, when it stopped and it started growing again, I just let it grow. This and my other one, which I'll show you in a second. So that's why it's in this condition now. And I don't want to prune it now because we're heading into fall. And 2 reasons I don't prune at this time of year, which I would also recommend you look into and probably consider as well. One, it doesn't have time to heal. So none of the cuts, if I made cuts now, none of them would have time to heal up. They would be open wounds going into winter. So then they're susceptible to fungus and bacteria and bugs and all kinds of stuff. And 2, you're really just robbing the tree of health if you did that right now. So right now it's kind of storing up, it's gathering up all the sunlight it can to convert into sugars and send down as energy into the roots. So if you cut it now, they're not going to grow back in time, and it's just less time it's got to absorb sunlight. So driving me crazy though. I mean, look at this thing. It's in such rough condition. It's like when you need a haircut and you don't get a haircut and you look terrible. That's what it is. Let's look at its air layer that I took last year or the year before. So same story on this one. This was an air layer from the top of Big Daddy. And it experienced the same thing where the leaves just turn yellow and brown. So one thing I heard and considered for a minute is maybe it was that Dutch elm disease. But I also read that Siberian elm are very resistant to Dutch elm disease, and also looks a little different too. So I don't think it was that. And also, if it was that, how come none of my other elms were affected? It doesn't really make sense to me. About half of them were affected and half of them were not. Those 2 cuttings that I've had for 3 or 4 years that I just showed a second ago, those weren't affected at all. But these 2 and then the Siberian elm forest were. So who knows? I have no idea. But it's going to get a haircut first thing come spring. The good news in both of those stories is that they bounced back, as you can see. I mean, it bounced back quite a bit. So all is not lost, just, you know, the summer didn't go quite as I had planned and hoped for it. It could have been worse. All right, let's switch it up here for a second. Boom. Virginia creeper. Try to not destroy it here. It's really more of a vine than a tree, but I'm still trying to bonsai it. It's got these little berries, very colorful in the fall. And what I like about this one in particular, it's hard to see, but that root base. It's got roots sticking up all over the place. It's not exactly following the rules. That's okay. I still like it. It's probably about time to repot it. It's been in this pot for 2, maybe 3 years now. I never really noticed Virginia creepers just in the wild. I never look at it and go, wow, that's pretty. But you start styling one and all of a sudden they look pretty. Yeah, there's the Virginia creeper. All right, Dwarf Alberta spruce. I have not done a thing with this all year. It had 2 really rough growing seasons kind of in a row. I'm trying to see, is that scale or is that sap? There's something on there. I don't know, nothing I guess. Anyways, it's out of shape, sort of out of sorts. I need to wire down some branches again because they've lost their shape. They're starting to grow upwards. But otherwise, it had a much better year this year than it did the past couple years, which is great. I found that these really do need a lot more sunlight than I originally thought. It didn't do well on the balcony when I lived at that apartment. But yeah, I first started this, I want to say about 4 years ago. Just got it from a big box store after Christmas. It was on clearance. Decided to make something out of it. And it's got some pretty cool character. Got a ways to go, but cool character still. There's the Dwarf Alberta spruce. All right, silver maple. My S-shaped silver maple. I've had this for going on 10 years or so. It's had a weird few years, actually. Come to think of it, it's had a weird life. The long story short is about 5 or 6 years ago when I had it, I sprayed everything down with this aphid spray that I got, and some of the trees reacted really poorly to it. This was one. It formed all these weird, like alien hand looking leaves, and it did that for 2 years straight, which is strange. I sprayed it once, and it grew all weird like that for the rest of the year, and then the following year too, which I would not have guessed. Then I repotted it, and it had a normal year. It grew really well. Then last year, when I was at that apartment on the balcony, it grew well enough, but the weird thing that happened was in fall, the leaves didn't do what they normally do, where they turn colors, you know, get dry and flaky and fall off. They just sort of like wilted. I don't know how else to explain it than that. So I thought, oh man, has it got root rot? You know, what's the issue? I don't know. But then it bounced back this year. I thought, okay, false alarm. But it grew. You know, you can see that it did grow, but the leaves were yellow pretty much all year, or most of the year, at least. I don't know if it was a type of deficiency or something. I fertilized it. I don't know. I don't know as much as I need to know about fertilizers, because you can over-fertilize them and they have certain symptoms, or you can under-fertilize them and they can have certain symptoms. So I don't know what I did or didn't do. Not sure. But I would imagine it's probably ready to be repot. It's been in this pot for about 2 years now. And these silver maples grow roots pretty prolifically. But otherwise, I just let it grow this year. I think I sort of gave it a light little hedge prune at one point, just to make room for other trees. And otherwise, let it grow just to gain health. So there it is. Always wants to grow a branch right there. closer look here at the structure. But I do like this tree quite a bit. So that's it for my S-shaped silver maple.